Hey there, everybody. This is Kristin from Teaching Balance, and I am here with this week's mindfulness meditation practice. And we are in the month of June, and the Teaching Balance theme for June is holding space. I was just like, wait, make sure, yeah, holding space. And as we've explored in our first two sessions, our first two practices of this month with this theme, what we did was we did a little bit of self-inquiry. So we were exploring in that first week, in that first session, really just finding out and asking within that inner wisdom, you could say, what do I need? And when we pose the question that way, when it's phrased that way, not always, but generally speaking, it does tend to have this quality of like something that you're inviting in, something that you're adding or you're expanding. And then the following week, we went in a slightly different direction where we decided instead just to talk about or have that inquiry within of like, what do I need to let go of and what do I need to release? And one of those two practices may have been more resonant for you than another, which actually is perfect for what we're going to do this week. Because in a sense, what we're going to do is, now that some time has passed and perhaps you've been reflecting on some of this, now just really being willing to hold the space for whatever came up and seems most important. And so important is another one of those words that you can interpret like so many. But other terms that I would consider using would be, for what's most important, for what is most essential, for what is most needed. And then the other, as I was thinking about what to title this, the other term that I think of is what is most precious. And of course, we all know, what that means. And immediately I can't not think of Lord of the Rings and Gollum, my precious. So that was about as far as I'm going to go with that. But the whole idea is really what is precious in this moment. Now, of course, there's all the things in our lives that are so precious to us. It's, our families, our friends, our sense of purpose in the world and all of that. That is all very precious. And I get that. But when I use it for this particular practice today, what I'm really talking about is, as you have reflected on this, like I said earlier, what is it that came up in that crucible of awareness regarding a shift that needs to occur? And it could be something that you're inviting in and are expanding, or something that you're choosing to let go of and release, or if not permanently, then at least temporarily. And so we're not necessarily, going to do too much of a self-inquiry. I might kind of weave it in, but in a more informal fashion today. But that is the idea. So going forward, now that you have a little bit more of a sense of this new thing that you need, that is now precious and worth exploring and continuing to hold space for, knowing what it is, asking perhaps yourself what that might look like and how to continue to go forward. So let's go ahead and start our practice, and I'll see what I can do to weave it in there. Okay, for 10 minutes. Allow yourself just to find that seated posture, or maybe even lying down, whatever you are needing right now. But whatever it looks like on the outside, really the important part is that shift on the inside, that shift into a quality of embodiment and deep presence. And by embodiment, I mean being more in your body, as opposed to being this abstract thinking mind that's often elsewhere. So one of the best ways to drop into our bodies and slow down and open up to that quality of presence and awareness is to begin by taking a few slow, deep belly breaths. So let's do that at your own pace. And as you find yourself continuing to settle, to let your dust settle, to let your pieces of plastic snow in a snow globe settle. And knowing, of course, that sometimes that full settling doesn't occur, and that's actually fine. It's totally fine. Our experience on the cushion, as they say, has a direct connection to our experience off the cushion in the world. And so what we do here, while a part of it is about being able to consciously become more present, and sometimes there's a quality of calm and settling that occurs as an association with that. Sometimes it's just not the state that we're in, and that's fine. Sometimes we feel agitated, over-caffeinated, anxious. And my invitation to you when that happens is not to try to not trying to shift your state, not getting attached to the outcome of finding yourself in a different state of mind, but instead just being deeply present to how things are. So if your leg is doing that shaking thing, that's fine. You're just allowing yourself to be aware of that in a deeply accepting and non-judgmental way. You're not resisting it and bemoaning, there goes my leg again. But instead, with that quality of objective awareness, you just notice leg shaking. And you just come back to how things are. If you notice that there's tightness or constriction in the body, there's no need to actively shift that. You can just notice. Just say tightness. And then just come back to whatever your anchor is, resting your awareness on the breath and its sensations. Resting your awareness on the body in its entirety, or perhaps just one part, or any other sense door awareness, like sounds, or perhaps even smells. So letting go of that possible predisposition to change, shift, have things be different, and instead play with the idea of just being, as I said earlier, deeply accepting of and present to how things are. So let's do that for a little while in silence, and I'll come back in a bit to weave some more things in there. And if you'd like to continue your meditation in that traditional sense until the end, please do. But in the spirit of continuing this work we've been doing, this exploration of holding space, I'm going to invite you to bring to mind, what is this precious idea that has come up for you as something that you need to hold space for? Could be a quality, like experiencing and appreciating and savoring perhaps more joy in simple things. It might also be letting go of something. And when we let go, it doesn't mean that it's a rejection of the thing or a betrayal of the experience. Instead, it's really just time to unburden yourself, if that's what came up for you. So in the final minute or so of our practice together, I'm going to invite you just to allow yourself to be present to what is this precious thing that you need to hold space for. And I'm also going to encourage you, if this visualization is helpful, to just allow yourself to sit with it. You could imagine it as sitting across from you as you sit in practice, or sitting with you on a bench in a beautiful park, and allowing it to occupy that space with you and to hold that space for it, to care for whatever it is that you need, and to go forward continuing to care for that as feels appropriate to you. And of course, you can pause this video and keep going. But if you're done, it's interesting because it can take so many forms. It can be, something so big as allowing yourself to be present to and acknowledging of a dream. And I don't mean like a sleep dream, but like a dream that you've always had. People talk about dream big and all of that sort of thing. And generally speaking, we educators are all rather practical people. So sometimes we don't really let ourselves indulge in that and splash around in the possibility. So it could be something like that. And it can also just be letting go of how hard this year was. It can take so many different forms. So I encourage you to keep playing with this. Allow yourself just to have a quality of lightness around it. Don't put pressure on yourself to now start all these new structures in your life to make sure this thing happens and have it be tight and rigid. There has to be a quality of grounded strength to be able to hold space for something that feels precious and feels important to you. But you don't want to do it in such a way that it feels constricted and tight and rigid. And that, of course, is the trick, to be able to have there be a grounded strength and consistency without necessarily, sacrificing your sense of peace and that sort of thing. So, as always, thank you so much for taking this time for yourself, and thank you so much for allowing me to accompany you on this journey. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.